Well, hi there, and welcome back to another Evolve to Win show with Heather and Paul. And I just really want to thank anybody the people who have been watching our channel, who have been subscribing to our YouTube channel, who have been listening to the podcast and downloading it. Really want to thank you for just listening and being a part of the show. We've put it out there because our topic, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And why don't we get into that and then we can cover it a little bit later.
Okay.
All right?
Thanks for acknowledging our followers. We appreciate you very much. And today we're going to talk about the movie Yesterday and how it actually applies to you, every one of you. And so if you haven't seen the movie Yesterday, we'll give you a little bit of a spoiler alert, but quite frankly, from the trailer, I think you're going to get everything you'd get out of us anyway.
But I don't even think most people have even seen the trailer.
You don't think so?
Yeah, because everybody's watching like Netflix or Amazon series.
I don't know. I think this one's a pretty popular movie.
Okay.
So the movie Yesterday, which is still available on Prime or I don't know if it's on Netflix, but Amazon Prime is where we watched it. So the concept is that there's a guy who has some crazy accident, and when he wakes up, the Beatles have never been founded. Right. So the band, the Beatles, does not exist.
Right.
And so you're probably trying to get your mind around that right now if you're listening in and you haven't heard about this movie yet. But so I want you to think about this. Imagine that John Lennon made a different decision and he decided not to pursue his passion for music and his amazing gift. And if he instead chose to just maybe settle down and go live somewhere in England, what would have happened if you had life without the Beatles?
Yeah, because there's countless, hundreds of thousands of people that are fantastic musicians, great writers, great artists, and they, for whatever reason, maybe got married early, maybe got children, had children early, and life just started, had to get a job, couldn't spend the time to really develop their skill. And we missed out on the opportunity to be a part of that person's passion in their life and what they could create.
Yeah, and just the impact. Now, whether or not you're a fan of the Beatles, I happen to be a huge fan.
Yeah, me too.
When you listen to those songs, you forget how many amazing songs that they recorded over the years. But I want you to be thinking about some of the artists who have made a major impact in your world. And what would it be like if you didn't actually have that artist? If that artist had maybe given up when it got tough? Because how many of the people who have really made it big, right, and been able to impact our lives have really struggled. And, I asked Paul, when we were preparing for this session, I said, who's one of your childhood superstars? Like, who did you look up to? And do you remember who you picked?
Well, I did, but that was more about sports.
That's okay. Tell me.
Yeah, but then you asked me about what made the biggest difference in your life.
I'll get there, but I want you to start.
Okay,
just start with the first one. So I said, think about as a kid.
I'll just follow along with you.
Just play along with me. As a kid.
So I said, growing up in Chicago, it was like, for sports, because I loved sports when I was a kid, and I was a Chicago Bears fan and a Bulls fan. So Walter Payton, and then having Michael Jordan. Of course, Michael Jordan. How could I forget, right?
Of course. And you think about that. And so I know when you think about sports that you're saying, yeah, maybe they made a big impact on me as a kid, but there are others who have made a much larger impact on my life.
Right.
But I do want you to think about how some of your childhood, idols, your superstars, really did make an impact in your life. And you probably made different decisions as a kid about getting into sports even because of having those role models. And, Michael Jordan, I've heard his story so many times and I don't remember the actual year that he got kicked off of his baseball team. I think it was like 8th grade or something.
Basketball team. First of all, he played basketball, and then he was in his 8th grade basketball team. He did not make the team.
Yeah.
I believe that's what.
So you think about that and you think, okay, this kid at the age of like 12 is told by his coach he can't play basketball. Yeah. Now, he's arguably the most legendary basketball player who ever lived.
Sure.
how easy would it have been for that 12-year-old to be mad that he didn't make the team and not go out again?
Right.
But instead, he worked his tail off and he got really good and he developed that mental strength and my God, can you imagine all the years we lived in Chicago? I can't imagine what it would have been like not having Jordan on that team. But that's just one example of how somebody can truly impact your world. And you made the comment that sometimes these athletes are just natural born athletes, right? And then they're able to make it. There are other athletes out there who have actually just developed this mental toughness and this persistence, and they've just trained and trained and trained until the place where they've gotten themselves as good as they are, right? Sure. And I think I think it's just a great analogy for other areas of life. So,
but I think your point in bringing up, because athletes are an easy one to talk about, they are given the God-given gifts and talents, but they also need the mental toughness and the discipline and everything. And there's been plenty of incredible athletes that have fallen by the wayside and are irrelevant in the world, and the ones that have made it. But I think your point is that, if you've been knocked down, and you're passionate about something, or you really love to do something and you think you can share that with the world, you think you have something that could make a difference to people, but you haven't done it because either you're too scared or too busy, or you've let other things get in your way.
Circumstances
that have gotten in your way. It's time to take that on, because it's bigger than just you. It's the opportunity to make a difference in other people's lives. Yeah. And you think about the technology that we have now to be able to do things like this. I mean, we're on Facebook Live and we're sharing this message in just this idea to potentially the world. Not that even close to the
maybe
world is
the
watching,
whole world's not listening, but you
could.
are. But you are right now.
And you're the ones we care about.
And quite frankly, what if this message sparked some kind of inspiration in somebody to write that book that they've been talking about forever?
You could be the next Beatles.
Or to play your music, right?
Yeah.
No, but I mean, this really is serious though, because I think we get caught up a lot of times in thinking, who am I to do whatever, whether it's writing your book, whether it's starting your podcast, whether it's writing a blog article, whatever it is, every one of you has something that has a significance about you, a gift that is so unique that there's nobody else in the world who could share it the same way that you do. And yet some of you are not sharing your message. You're not bringing it out to the world. And some of you who have this amazing message, maybe you've even captured it, but you don't know how to market it to get it out there in the hands of those who could really benefit. So the part of the conversation today, and thinking about the movie yesterday, the movie for me was like, it was okay. It was entertaining because it had a lot of great music in it, some funny parts. But it wasn't until after the movie that we started talking, and I thought, that's kind of a pretty wild concept to think about. If someone had made a different decision, how would that impact our worlds? The loss of something great out there, we would never have known the loss because we wouldn't have experienced it. And yet when you experience, when I was thinking about someone who's made a massive impact on my life, who I've never met before, Earl Nightingale came up for me. Jim Rohn comes up for me. Some of the greatest of the greats who decided to share their message in a way that just really, touched me, that could bring me out of a bad place. How many times I've listened to their voices. I know their voices so well, and yet I never got to meet them. And what if either of those two gentlemen, or the, hundreds of others who I've read, watched, or listened to, decided not to share those messages?
Yeah, but even more personal to you, and you've shared your story before about your was it your law school? Your college professor,
Dr. Cornaros.
So just tell that quick story.
I thought about him today. Yeah. I thought, okay, so what if my college professor, Dr. Cornaros, had made a different decision and decided not to teach, and I didn't have him in my world? Would I have ever gone to law school? And the answer is, I really don't know. I don't know that I would have, because he was such a major, major push for me. He was a big supporter, a big believer. He literally gave me this step-by-step path. He got me to he got me to do an internship for our local U.S. congressman, which I thought, wait, you want me to work without getting paid? I don't really understand that concept. At how old was I at that point? Like 21. But he literally helped to create that path for me, got me signed up for the LSAT, which is even the pre-study for the LSAT, to take the LSAT, which is the entrance exam to get into law school. So every single step he was my guide and he was my mentor. And if I didn't have him in my world, if he decided not to teach, if he decided not to move from Greece to America, I mean, there's so many different decisions that he made to be in my life. And by the way, if he hadn't poured into me the way he did and believed in me. So sometimes it's not about this massive creative genius. I mean, Lord knows, my musical capabilities ended in 6th grade piano, I think. But, who are you for other people, and who are you pouring into? Because the example about Dr. Cornaros, if he had made different decisions, even if he hadn't, taken me under his wing, he could have just been a great professor, but he didn't have to guide me and steer me and really develop me. So
right.
Yeah, he was a really big one personally for me, that if he made different decisions, my life would be completely altered.
And my life would have been altered as well.
Because we would never have met.
That's right.
What if we didn't go out that night? What if when Heather McDermott called, I said, no, I don't want to go out tonight?
Yeah, but speaking of the topic of the movie yesterday, and if you haven't seen it, it's worth seeing. It was $19.99 on Amazon Prime, and we waited until it dropped down to $5.99, and then we bought it. So that's what we thought it was worth.
$6.
It was worth $6
sure.
to share. Considering when we go to a movie, anytime it's $50 plus whatever we buy in popcorn and everything else,
value.
It's like, holy cow. But just a quick story about the Beatles, and that how Heather and I met, and then how it transpired from there. Well, Heather knew that one of my favorite songs of all time was
Imagine. You couldn't come up with a title. That's your favorite song, remember?
It was one of my favorite songs was Imagine by John Lennon, not the Beatles actually, but John Lennon. And so she knew that, and when Heather's grandmother was alive, Heather worked with her grandmother because her grandmother was really great on the piano, and she could play
anything by ear.
Could just play by ear. And so Heather asked her if she could teach Heather how to play that song. And Heather's pretty good at the piano, so she played. So she learned, and I don't know how many weeks in a row you would go over there and just hang out with her.
Months.
And then she ended up writing some sheet music for you to be able to follow. And then when Heather and I went on a cruise, and I think it was for our anniversary, our fifth anniversary, I think it was. Heather was like, oh, we got to go into this bar. And I'm like, okay, I don't mind going to a bar. And as we go to the bar, and she'd be like, no, we got to go. We got to leave. We're going to go to this other bar. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, why don't we just stay here for a drink? No, let's go to the other bar. And so we go over to the other bar. And then she's like, no, we can't stay here. We got to go to this other bar. And so
I was on the hunt for a piano couldn't. They weren't letting me play on their pianos, so we just had to keep going to the next place and the next place. Yeah.
So we ended up going into the Schooner Bar, if you all know about Royal Caribbean. So we go into the Schooner Bar,
and I did not. Just to be clear, the Schooner Bar is the big piano bar. It's the main piano bar. I did not want to be playing there, but it was the only place. And I don't know why they let me play, but they let me play.
And so she surprised me and played that song, and it really was. It was a beautiful song, and you did such a great job on it, and you didn't miss a note, and you actually sang it as well, which was, I mean, it was really beautiful. So
he was tearing up.
Yeah,
I totally surprised him. That was a really cool thing. I totally forgot about that time. And my Grammy has since passed away. And what I'm so sad about is we didn't not only did we not record it because he didn't know it was coming,
right,
but also I lost that sheet music that she wrote for me. And she wrote a rendition that was literally from her, from her ear.
Yeah.
So it's the sheet music that will only have ever been played in public once. So anyway, that was kind of fun.
It was really great.
Yeah.
Nobody had ever done that for me. And so it was really, really nice. But But getting back to...
So if I hadn't made the decision
Yeah.
to learn the song, you never would have gotten to experience that and share it, right?
That's right.
So,
I just wish we had it recorded.
oh gosh, I do too. But you know what? It's recorded right up here.
Yeah.
You'll never and it was
Yeah.
probably way better in your mind than it was in real life. So I don't think we need to replay that one.
So you asked me what was something that truly made a difference in my life, and I think that we had done a program before, and some people have had some great experience with. Some people have not had great experiences with Landmark Forum. And Landmark Forum was a program that we did back in 2001 in Chicago, and we were fortunate because where they were running the program was like a block away from where we were living.
Yeah.
And so we had no excuse to go, although it was the most beautiful day ever in the spring of 2001. And Heather had signed us up to go to this program, and it was a full 2 days or 3 days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 days
So
and a
anyhow,
night
but
or
it was a long
something.
program. Anyhow, it truly made a massive impact in my life, and literally just like I always say that my life. I have two parts of my life. One was pre-Landmark, and then the second part is, as it continues on now, is post-Landmark. And it was because it allowed me to really take a lot of what was holding me back, which was all of the stuff in the past and all the excuses that I made for myself and people that I blamed. And I was able to move that back into the past and create a new possibility and future for myself. And this is what has become of that future, which is, living into it, living in Florida, moving down, getting married, having, running our own business, this podcast, everything has just evolved from that. And, and I think, Warner Earnhardt, right?
Earhart,
Earhart
yes.
was the person who started
The technology.
the technology that we learned when we were in that program. And if he had not made that a passion for himself and figured out, how to make a difference in people's lives, that would not have transformed into and evolved into this program that we took in 2001. And it made a massive impact. So just things like that just happen, and people do things. And so our point is that if you have something to share with the world, and you have an idea, or you have, somebody tells you that, man, you should write that book, or you need to get out and tell people about that, or you need to start that idea is amazing, then you should do it and make the time for it. Put some pressure on yourself, get a coach, or get somebody that's going to hold you accountable to get the things done that need to get done, and just do it.
Just do it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think about the various excuses that people come up with for not living into their purpose, for not really expanding on their significance. And the thing is, it may be fine for you, but it's really not okay for others. You think about who's missing out on what you have to share. And hopefully that's a much bigger why behind why you should do what you do, why you should get that book out there. And you know what? I don't care if that book is if you're sitting there saying, yes, I do have a book in me, you know who you are. It's not everybody for sure, but those who do, I don't care if that book is a business book or a self-help book or a fiction book. The reality is the impact is still possible only if you write the book. So we just wanted you to think about what part you play in this story, right? If you think about the decisions that you're making, or maybe more importantly, the decisions you've failed to make. Sometimes it's just procrastination. You're like, oh, no, I'm definitely going to write that book, but I'm going to do it tomorrow, right? And every time you hesitate and put off that decision to do that thing that is going to impact other people's lives, we're definitely not guaranteed tomorrow. And so putting it off till tomorrow is really kind of, that's just not a good thing to do.
No.
So we're asking you to just really consider that your words, your message, your gift, your creativity, whatever it is that you have a desire to bring to the world, you got to pay attention to that desire because it's planted within you. Like it's there for a reason. So what do you need to do to get into action? And one of the things I'm so super excited about, Paul and I have come up with this 3-part series that we're working on right now, and it's just getting ready to launch. And we're going to be providing a link for you. We want all of our listeners to have free access to that. So we will be giving you that link down the road. But it's our way of helping you to get unstuck and to start getting into momentum. So we can't wait to share with you our series to help get you into momentum on whatever that is that you've got inside.
Yeah, and to finish up this recording, we brought up yesterday the movie yesterday. We are actually going to do a rendition of yesterday. We are going to see.
We are not.
I'm just kidding. We won't do that for you. But anyhow, if you liked this show and you got something out of it, please share it or subscribe to any of the channels. You can go on YouTube and subscribe. You can go to our podcast and subscribe through iTunes or Google Play or anything else. But again, we really appreciate you listening on Facebook Live if that's where you're seeing us.
And we love hearing from you. So every time we hear from one of you about something that you got from one of our episodes, that always means so much to us. So please keep sharing. Thanks so much for being with us today. And, just get started on whatever that is. And if you know someone else who needs to get started on their thing, please share this episode. Have an awesome day.
Have a great day.